Brentford 1, Arsenal 3. Do you know what? It looked a little bit similar, didn't it? For quite some time, it looked a little bit similar. It looked a little bit similar with the walking football. It looked like things were going to get kind of messy. It didn't, to me, look at all like there was going to be any free flowing football, no creativity. There wasn't much going forward for Arsenal. But do you know what? The second half, in that first 15 minutes, I felt like we blitzed them. We're going to talk on performances. We're going to talk on individuals. We're going to talk on team performance, manager substitutions, and tactics. We're going to touch on Brentford as well. We are going to talk on some of the individuals that I thought shone through the game, particularly in that second half. And I think that we do have to mention them because I thought there were a couple that definitely were shining and need to be given credit. Big up to everybody that's here. Make sure you're smashing the likes. Make sure you've hit like and subscribe. 2 buttons that are free. We are so close to 30K. The big 3-0. The big 3-0 is almost here, people. So big up to all of you. Hit that like button and make sure you hit subscribe. Let's talk about the game. The team lineup, the selection. First of all, Kai Havertz being out. From what I hear is a sickness or an illness. There looks like there's a bug that was going around and there was a potential sickness bug going across the squad. I don't know if Declan Rice was one of those that weren't feeling 100% because he was on the bench. Kai Havertz completely out. Rumours are that he was ill. But even Waneri's starting. Really happy with that. I don't know why we haven't seen more of him starting over the last few months, particularly when Ødegaard was out. But now, to be fair to Mikel Arteta, he's learnt from his mistakes and he's played him when Bukayo Saka is out. So I have to say that was a really good positive for me. And I thought his performance was excellent. He looked so comfortable on the ball. Nobody tell me this kid ain't ready. He's 100% ready. Trust me. He is a player I have a lot of time for. And he's a player that I actually do believe that we could utilise in a number of positions. And actually a player that I do rate highly. And people have said to me, what do you think about this kid? Do you think he's ready? Yeah, I do. And if I'm honest with you, I think the mistake today was actually not to continue to play Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I think has been really good. Calafiori got the nod. More on him in a minute. And then obviously up top, you saw the likes of Jesus, Martinelli, and even Waneri, sometimes switching it to be fair. Thomas Partey coming back into that 6. Just wow. Best player on the pitch for me. Unbelievable. So let's talk. Okay. So we went through the team lineup. And when I was going through it just then, I was thinking, who is it that we actually want to highlight? I'm going to do that in a minute. I'm going to get my negatives out of the way because there were a couple today. And one of them was Calafiori. I'm not really a fan, people. Now I'm going to leave it until the end and review in May for his first full season. He's young. He's come to a different league. He's playing in a position that I don't think he looks particularly comfortable in, if I'm honest. I think he's more of a centre-back than a left-back. But today, that was poor. Really bad defending for the goal. And I'm a fan of Bryan Mbeumo. I actually am. And I'll be quite happy if Arsenal were to bid for him. There's some loose rumours today saying that we're looking at scouting him for tonight's game because we're preparing a £50 million bid. I saw that earlier. Although I think that's a loose rumour, I do think he's a player that I would 100% look at taking. I like him a lot, actually. And what I like about Bryan Mbeumo is he's quite predictable on that right-hand side, cutting in on his left. But actually what he does is he delivers. His goal scoring has been fantastic this season. He's been phenomenal. He's been creating stuff as well. And it's fair to say that both, along with Bryan Mbeumo and Vissa, they both probably walk into the Arsenal attack right now. That's how good they've been and how poor we've been in attack. So look, I think he'd be a good signing. Yes, I do. And I know that a couple of people have mentioned other names, Kudus and Semenyo and Cunha and João Pedro. If I'm going for a Premier League player, if I'm honest with you, I think we could realistically get Bryan Mbeumo. They're not like Wolves where they need to keep hold of their best players to stay up. Brentford are staying up. Brentford are going to float around mid-table. They're a good side. They're well drilled by Thomas Frank. They make it very difficult for teams. They've only lost to Nottingham Forest and now us at home. They've been phenomenal at home, in fact. I think they've scored some of the most goals in the season so far. So I have to give credit where credit's due. But that defending from Calafiori was absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. If there's any defender I look at to be really uncomfortable at left back, I think it looks like Calafiori. Defensively, I've always had a problem with his positioning, but I thought his defending was awful today. I've got to be real. I spoke to my dad. I said, "Who did you think was bad? Or who did you think was good?" He said, "Yeah, I thought there were some good performances." He said, "But that Calafiori, what is he?" I said, "Yeah, unfortunately, I can't disagree with what he said. I thought it was a bang average performance that just got a little bit worse and worse. And every time that I saw him on the ball, I don't think he looked particularly as comfortable as I've seen him in the last few weeks. So I look now and I think Lewis Skelly should have played. Lewis Skelly did nothing wrong. So that's where I'm at. David Raya, could he have done better? I think he probably could have for the first goal, if I'm honest. Near post, probably has to do a little bit better. But in his defence, I think he was even shocked that Calafiori let it in. That's how bad it was. So that's where I'm at. Almost let it go through his hands. Great recovery save, by the way. But I have to say, other than that, there was some positives. And today there was some positives. If I'm honest with you, the only other player I would look at that disappointed me today was Martin Odegaard. Gave the ball away for the goal. I don't mind if you're trying to thread a ball through and it doesn't go through, but that was a poor position to give the ball away in. And then we know what happens after that. Every time he got on the ball today, I just weren't seeing enough creativity or spark from him. I need to see more GA from Odegaard this season. And I know he's just come back from injury, but I need to see it. I need to see it. He needs a season like he had back in 22-23. And hopefully now that we get a run of games, we can start to see that. So they're the ones for me that shone and were they're the ones for me that did not shine. I've got to say the first half performance from Marino was a bit meh, if I'm honest with you. In the second half, it started to get a bit better. So for me, second half, first half, walking football. First half, very good from Thomas Partey, very good from Ethan Nwaneri, and Gabriel Jesus. Fair play to you. Thomas Partey, I'll come back to in a minute. Great strike, parried out by the keeper, and Jesus is there to collect. And Jesus is looking a little bit like his old self of late. There's games where, yeah, he might drop off and he hasn't quite got into the swing of the game, but let's just be real. I actually thought he was pretty good at parts today. He does go down a little bit easily. He is offside too much for my liking, but actually I think that we were pretty good and he was pretty good. And I like his tenacity. I like his press. I like his work rate. I think on the ball, he looks fairly comfortable and a lot more comfortable than he has done in previous months. He's starting to look a little bit sharper and he's a little bit of a fox in the box at the moment. He's a little bit of a nuisance. There's been a couple of goals he scored against Crystal Palace and now tonight where he's been in the right place at the right time. And that's what you need for your number 9. You need a number 9 like Ian Wright who just sweeps up. And I thought he was good. And then we go into half time. And if I'm honest with you, I'm starting to feel like the walking football is probably going to end up with a 1-1 or maybe a 2-2 draw if this was to continue. But do you know what we did in the second half? I've got to be real. That second half, the first 15 minutes, we were really good. We were really good, man. It was a little bit like rolling back the years of Arsenal, rolling back to the 22-23 or last part of last season Arsenal, where we were just flying forward. And we blitzed them. And Brentford, I've spoken to a few people that are Brentford fans or that have been watching Brentford this season more than me. And they say that when they're chasing the game, they ain't that great. So you've got to allow them to be in that position. And Arsenal did. And I felt like that minute that we scored that goal, let's be real, it was quite scrappy. The delivery from Ethan Nwaneri, by the way, he's got a sweet left foot on him, ain't he? A sweet left foot. And do you know what? It looks perfect at the moment to play him while Saka's out. It looks perfect. Now, don't get me wrong. We want to see players coming in January, and we'll come to that at another time. But for me, for now, Nwaneri plays there and Jesus through the middle. I think it's working. And Kai Havertz at the moment holds bench and he comes on. That's what I would do personally. I felt like we were a lot more free-flowing without Kai Havertz. I felt like we weren't lumping the ball up to Kai Havertz to try and control and wait for someone to link up play with him. It's quite nice to see Arsenal not doing that. So I felt like that was a good thing. Before I continue, I want to throw in this super chat on that point. Thomas, big up to you. He says, we played so much better without Havertz. And the thing is, when you say that, it makes you sound like you hate Havertz and you're not a fan of him and you don't think he's good enough. That's not the case. I think Kai Havertz has got a place in this squad. I just don't personally believe that Kai Havertz is an absolute starter and a definite number 1. Definite number 9, should I say. So for me, I think what we need to do right now is look at what we see from Jesus in the 9, who's scoring, from Martinelli, who's starting to pick up his form, from Ethan Waneri, who on the right-hand side now looks like he can cover for Saka. And it's similar to his play, wasn't it? It was actually similar to watching him cutting in on that left, thinking, hang on a minute, this is what Saka does. Now, I'm not saying he's anywhere near Saka, right? At 17 years old, he was a bright spark today, Ethan. Ethan was a bright spark. Marino comes into the game. It's a great delivery from Nwaneri. It's a little bit lucky. It kind of hits a few players, doesn't it? Comes off of Nathan Collins' chest and it falls to Marino, who I thought was pretty poor today. Don't quite know what he offers, but then he gets on the score sheet. So fair play. And it does look like Mikel Arteta has brought in Mikel Marino, who's quite comfortable on the ball, but keeps it very sideways and backwards. But he's actually got quite a lot of height and presence and physical attributes, which I quite like. Don't get me wrong. But he's got the turning circle of a Land Rover. He really is not quick or agile on the ball at all, Marino. And I personally would rather see Ethan Waneri and Erdegaard in that position with Partey or Rice at 6. I would. I think Marino being a natural 8 is actually one of our weaker players in midfield at the moment. I don't think that he's doing enough. Now, I didn't think he was a shambles before everyone starts getting on my case. I just think he's an all right player. And this is why I've compared him to Mohamed El Neni and not Emil Smith-Rowe or Martin Odegaard, because I don't think he does that. I think he is just a sideways and backwards player who comes in and does a job. He's a squad player. That's the way I see it. So I'm sorry if people don't like what I say there and they want to be positive about the signing of Marino, but I just don't quite get what he is. So that's where I'm at. But we find ourselves 2-1 up and we do what I want to see, and that is we don't give up. We keep going. And I've got to say, it's a fantastic finish from Gabriel Martinelli, who in the first half, I think, was struggling to beat his man. I think in the first half was struggling to connect and communicate and work alongside some of them on the left-hand side again, which has been a problem for a long time now, unfortunately, on our left-hand side. We're chopping and changing it again. You know, it's Calafiori and Marino now again, you know. No more Declan Rice and Lewis Skelly. We've changed it again for this game. And I'm all cool with rotating, don't get me wrong. But I think, again, Martinelli is sitting there thinking how many of these players can actually form a connection with, because there's no partnership going on here. They keep switching around. But it was a great goal. And it killed the game off for me at 3-1. It killed it off. You know, great reactions from Jesus. Marino in the right place. Quite lucky how it fell to him. But this time, it was phenomenal. And if I'm honest with you, Ethan had kind of made a couple of those goals. And people won't get the assists or the credit for it, because obviously the way that corner was delivered was superb, but the way that it fell, I imagine he can't really claim a set piece assist for that. But he creates that. He also creates the first goal for that. And I think he's a part of the third goal, to be fair. So in everything that we did going forward, Ethan Waneri was right there. Gabriel Martinelli, I'm really happy for as well, because actually I think that's his 5th goal in an Arsenal shirt this season, which, to be fair, let's be real, if he replicates that, he gets into double figures in goals. I'm not saying that's outstanding, by the way. He needs to do more. I want to be seeing 15, 20 goals from Martinelli, right? But actually, if you can look to him to get between 10 and 15 goals and assists, I don't think that's a bad season for Gabriel Martinelli. In a team where we aren't really playing too attractive, creative attacking football at the moment, in a team where I think our left-hand side is being a little bit let down at times. So fair play to Gabby, you know? Let's give him some credit. One thing you can never deny, and I say this a lot, Gabriel Martinelli gives 110% every single game. He don't stop running. The work rate's phenomenal. He's tenacious. He knows that he has one way, and that's running forward. And if I'm honest with you, I don't think he gets enough credit for his defensive attributes, because he does track back. He does work hard. And although I'd like to see more from him, I actually believe personally we've got actually a really good Gabby Martinelli in glimpses in the last few games. I just need to now see a little bit of consistency from him. And that goes for a lot of other players. It's not just him. But that, for me, killed the game off. And at 3-1, I was really happy. Really, really happy. Gabriel Saliba, fair play today. Jurriën Timber, out. Yellow card, unfortunately, for the Brighton game. He's going to be suspended, which means Thomas Partey will have to play at right back, which is a shame, because I don't want to see him there. But we have no Timber. We have no Ben White. We have no Tomiyasu. So it means Thomas Partey will be playing there. Rice will have to come in to the number 6 against Brighton. Let's see what happens there. Let's see. Does he go with Havertz and Erdegaard in the middle with Rice? Does he keep Marino in there? Waneri, I imagine, will probably play there on the right-hand side again. Is Jesus going to play up top? He's got some issues and some not issues. He's got some decisions to make, which are good decisions to make, to be fair, because that's what we get money for. That's what we pay him for, right? So let's see what happens. Maybe a lot with Trossard because it's against Brighton. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see where we go from there. Let's talk about my player of the match. It isn't actually Ethan Waneri. My player of the match is Thomas Partey. And I want to have a section on Thomas Partey because I don't think he was spoken about it enough. He's out of contract in the summer. And if he continues to stay fit and perform like this, I honestly think we need to try and extend his deal. And in fact, I think we have to anyway. Because Thomas Partey was player of the match today, but actually has been our best outfield player this season. And I think he's been better than Raya actually this season as well. So I'm going to say that he's been our best. I actually do feel like he's our best player this season. If I had to rank them all, you could talk about Saka's goals and assists. You can talk about David Raya's saves at the start of the season. You can talk about how consistent Gabriel and Saliba have been at times and how they've been a threat from set pieces. You can talk about the integration of Timber at right back. But for me, Thomas Partey's been the most consistent player. And you know what? I don't like him at right back. But he's actually played all right there in the last few games when he has played there because he's on good form at the moment. He drops in at right back as well when Timber goes forward. The intelligence of him is actually quite underappreciated. I thought in terms of his interceptions today, I thought he was elite. I thought the passing was sensational. I thought his transitional play was superb. I thought that everything we did went through Thomas Partey. He looks comfortable. He's casual on the ball. His passing was superb. And it just makes me realise he is our best number 6. And I love Rice in the 6. But they have to either both play there, or if there's only one, you can see why Mikel Arteta is playing Thomas Partey in the 6 because he's been phenomenal for us, man. Absolutely phenomenal. So I've been really impressed with him, his performances, and I thought today he was exceptional. Obviously, the first goal, he has a strike, which was parried and saved by the keeper. Jesus is there to tuck it away. He was a part of most of what we did going forward, which is unbelievable to say from a number 6. When defensively he was asked to do his duties, he did it. His interceptions were brilliant. I thought his tackling was outstanding. I thought that the way that he was ball recovery was superb. I thought there was a lot of times on the ball where I looked at Partey and he had just calmed things down. Kept composed, kept calm. There's a calming presence about Thomas Partey. That's probably one of the biggest compliments I can give him. And I don't think there's many others that are like that on the ball. I think he's one of them. I'm a big, big fan of him. And I think that when I made that statement 2 years ago with Igal and Kenny, saying that I think Thomas Partey is our best player, I kind of stood by it for a while. And I can see why I did now. I can see why I did. Now, I happen to say I have changed since then because Saliba's come onto the scene and I think he's been phenomenal. Bukayo Saka has upped his level. But I've got to say, I'm putting Partey up there with him. I'm putting Partey ahead of Rice. I'm putting Partey ahead of Odegaard. I'm putting Partey ahead of Havertz. I'm putting him ahead of Martinelli. I'm putting him ahead of the other players at the back. I think Thomas Partey, for me, I have to say it, I think he is one of our most important players at the moment. But when you take him out of that midfield, it's a problem. So we've got a decision to make in the summer with Thomas Partey because both him and Jorginho are out of contract. Now, don't get me wrong. I think we do need another number 6 and an 8 if they go. But if they stay, maybe we could go and get a proper number 8 and have Partey and Rice as a 6. And then we have Partey as the kind of cover player at the age of 32, will he be? 31, 32? I think he has to play at the moment in our midfield. Now, against Brighton, as I've mentioned, he's going to play right back. And understand why, because we ain't got anybody else. What else could he do? Excuse me. What else could he do? There's absolutely no other right back that we can play there. Because Timber being suspended now, Ben White out, Tomiyasu out, what's he going to do? Play Calafiori there? I don't think so. So I think it's going to be Partey. I think it's going to be Calafiori, Gabriel and Saliba. It looks like he's going with that. Against Brighton, I imagine it will be Declan Rice in the middle with potentially Marino and Erdegaard. And then I think it will probably be Waneri, Martinelli and Jesus. The only other thing he could do is put Havertz in there instead of Marino in the midfield, which he seems to like doing at the moment. It just depends on how fit he is. If he's not well, it's only 3 days' time and we've got to play Brighton. Is he going to be right and ready for that? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But look, at the moment, we have picked up a little bit of inconsistent form. Yes, we beat Ipswich 1-0. People were happy with that. I particularly wasn't with the performance, but we won the game. Today's second half performance definitely impressed me. I just hope there's no more Everton or Fulham results around the corner because we can't afford any more. We really can't. There's just no way we can slip up. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of positivity to take from today. And I'm going to give Mikel Arteta some credit with the tactics and with the in-game management and also with his subs. Because although I don't think it was amazing in this first half and it was a little bit walking football, I think things got a hell of a lot better in the second. I'm going to give him credit for his team talk at half time because we came out looking like a different team. We came out looking like we were free-flowing football again. It looked like it was attacking. Getting players on the ball that can do something with it. Martin Odegaard, even Waneri, even Martinelli, to be fair, big up to him. And I think the substitutes were pretty clever today. Declan Rice coming on, which was needed. Miles Lewis-Skelly coming on, which I think was deserved. Trossard coming on, which I think everybody kind of expected to see from our attack-minded players. Probably one of the only players on the bench that you'd look at and think fair play. But with every positive, there is also a negative. That bench isn't good enough. I had 4 left-backs on it. Kieran Tierney, Kivior, Lewis-Skelly, and Zinchenko were all on the bench today. Jorginho on that bench. Meaning that really the only 2 subs that can come on and make an impact to the game are Declan Rice and Trossard, and one of those is a number 6. So we've got Jorginho and Rice that are defensive midfielders. We've got Tierney to bring on. He can't impact a game at left back. Lewis-Skelly can't really impact a game at left back. Zinchenko can't really impact a game at left back. Kivior can't really impact a game at left-sided defender. So who have we actually got other than Trossard that can come on and actually change things for us? The injuries have killed us. Saka, Sterling and Havertz are all out at the moment. We need to go into January, and that's where we're going to end. I don't really care about the names anymore. I just want to see something happen. I want to see something happen with ambition. I don't want to go and get Rashford on loan. I don't want to go and have to look at potentially a forward that is probably going to compete with Kai Havertz as trying to start. I want to see somebody come into Arsenal that we all go, oh, brilliant, we're serious. And it could be Victor Gyökeres, it could be Victor Osimhen, it could be Marmoush, it could be Lookman and Marmoush, it could be Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, it could be Kudus and Cunha. I don't know who it is, right? But I need to see some ambition. I do not want to see Arsenal Football Club going to try and be cheap again. There's a lot of reports suggesting that the Cronkies are going to back Mikel Arteta in this window due to the injury to Bukayo Saka. I've accepted we're not going to get a number 9. It's going to be a winger. It's going to be a wide forward. It's probably going to be Marmoush. It's probably going to be Lookman. Perhaps it's going to be Brian Mbeumo or Cunha. I don't know. But it's going to be one of those guys. Now, I don't think it's going to be Kudus because he's got a release clause in the summer of 85 million, which means that West Ham are not going to sell him for anything less than 90 to 100 million now when they're guaranteed to get 85 in the summer. Yeah. If we said, oh, we'll give you 70, they're going to go, no thanks, we'll wait till the summer where he's got 85 million release clause. So that's why I don't think Kudus is happening. I think we can all agree that Isak's probably going to stay at Newcastle until the summer at least. And it might be that if he gets Champions League football or European football, that he's quite happy there. So Isak probably isn't going to happen. And it might not even happen in the summer. Victor Gyökeres, we've had no interest in. We've had no links with. And it looks like Victor Gyökeres has kind of said himself that he has got his heart set on somewhere. And it doesn't sound like it's Arsenal. Marmoush is a very interesting one because at Frankfurt, I think it's realistic. Cunha is another very interesting one. But would Wolves want to sell when they're in a relegation battle? I think Brian Mbeumo is probably one of the most realistic options because I think at 40 or 50 million, I think Brentford would sell. And I also think that he'd probably be willing to come. I also think that then solves the Bukayo Saka problem. And I do think that Bukayo Saka will be in a position where when he does come back, he'll actually have some genuine competition and Mbeumo can be that guy. So I think that would probably be a realistic one. But I'd go one further. If we could get Bukayo Saka some competition like Brian Mbeumo, and if we can go and buy a left winger like Lookman or Marmoush, I think those 2 signings coming in would be superb for where Arsenal are at right now. And then it doesn't matter about Sterling. It doesn't matter about Kai Havertz and what he is or isn't not doing. It doesn't matter about Gabriel Jesus and when he's going to get the next injury. It doesn't matter that we might have to rely on a 17-year-old Ethan Waneri. These would be 2 very good signings for me. I think we're going to get the striker in the summer. I don't think it's going to be in January. And if I'm honest with you, if I had to put my money on who we're going to get, I think it's going to be Benjamin Sesko in the summer. And I don't mind getting Benjamin Sesko in the summer if we've got those 2 forwards. But if we're not getting anybody until Benjamin Sesko in the summer, who, by the way, I'm not actually a massive fan of, I have to say, then that's not really good enough for me. I need to be seeing a lot more than that. I don't want to be in a position where we're in a oh my God, Benjamin Sesko's coming in to kind of save Arsenal at 21 years old, when I don't even know that he's actually better than Kai Havertz, if I'm honest with you. Isak's my number one, Gyökeres is my number two, and if I'm honest with you, after that, I'd probably go with Marmoush. The reasons being, all three of them are on absolute fire. We know what Isak's doing at Newcastle and has done at Newcastle for the last 2-3 seasons. We know what Victor Gyökeres is doing currently in world football and for Sporting Lisbon, and we know what Marmoush is doing over at Frankfurt. All of their numbers are impressive. Marmoush has got 20 goals and assists in just 15 games. Victor Gyökeres got 58 goals and assists in just 50 games of last season, and already this season is putting up unreal numbers. And Alexander Isak, I think at the weekend, is now looking at one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League. I think he's only, 3 or 4 off of Salah? So for me, this is why we need these players. This is why I want to be seeing players like that coming in at Arsenal. I don't want to go and get a Sesko who at 21 years old, there's a lot of pressure on to try and get in the team ahead of Havertz. So I'm not even sure if he actually has many attributes better than him. I don't want to be in a position where we go and get Marcus Rashford at 27 years old on loan to try and revive his career. No more of that rubbish. Let's actually go and get a player that Arsenal fans will go, wow. Let's go and have a January transfer window like when we signed the Aubameyang or when we signed Andre Arshavin. Let's go and have a transfer window that a lot of the rival fans will go, oh, yeah, Arsenal are serious. This is going to be an interesting last few months. Because if we get somebody in and they need 4 or 5 months to settle in, that's too late. The season's done. We need someone who's walking into this side now and is making it better. And people will say that's difficult to get, but I actually don't think it is. Because I look at the front line of Brighton, Brentford, Wolves, Forest, Newcastle, and I think I can't be adamant to say there's players in all of those teams that don't walk into Arsenal's first team right now. I think Cunha does. I think Kudus does. I think Mbeumo does. I think Anthony Gordon does. I think João Pedro does. If I'm honest with you, I've got to say it. I think some of those teams that I've mentioned have a better front three than Arsenal. Let's be real. Newcastle have. Newcastle definitely have. And if I'm honest with you, I think Newcastle's midfield is probably as good, if not better. In fact, I think it's definitely better. Tonali, Bruno G and Joe Linton. And then Isak and Gordon up top. Let's be real. I actually think that all of those players will walk into Arsenal right now. So, yeah, I think we need to be realistic about it. Who do you want? Let me know in the comments. Just one player. That's who you can have. You've got 80 million to spend. Who are you putting it on? Is it Kudus? Is it Mbeumo? Is it Marmoush? Is it Gyökeres? Is it Osimhen? What are we going with? Because for me, as much as I do think we need a striker, I kind of accepted that it's not happening. I'm kind of expecting that we're going to get a forward. And I don't know if that wide forward is going to be a right-sided forward or a left-sided forward, but I do think we're going to get one in. I'm not quite sure who it is. So we're going to have to see, aren't we? Let's take a look at that. Big up to every single one of you for being in here. Make sure you do me a favor. Hit the like button. Yeah. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're getting really close to 30k people. Really close. So big up to all of you guys. And yeah. 3-1 to the Arsenal. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, people. We're out of here.